The forbidden door has been opened. Let's open it and we'll step through it and ourselves. Oh my God, it's really cool. I don't know what I'm doing. I wanted to visualize it somehow, but I couldn't come up with another way. Just leave me be. But it does sound like AEW and New Japan are ready to work together. The only sucky thing being that they can't work together properly because of the global pandemic. So America can't fly to Japan and Japan can't fly to America. But hey, look, we are a few steps ahead of where we were yesterday. And for that, I say thank you. Still, the cool thing is that now we can start fantasy booking and thinking, well, what AEW versus New Japan matches do we want to see? So, of course, I sat down and I made a list of my own. Come on now, what else are we going to do in 2021? It's YouTube, we do lists. Don't pretend you don't like him either, we all secretly do. And a quick note too, what I have put together here are not the most obvious ones that come to mind. So I thought, well, everyone's going to be doing that anyway, we should think outside the box. And I also included a couple of rules. Number one rule is that you can only pick one wrestler once, so you can't just go Omega versus Okada and Omega versus Naito and Omega versus... You have to only use them once, and that's the only rule. It's a bit like Fight Club, although even Fight Club had 2 rules. So make sure you do go into the comments and leave your own suggestions as well, but for now, these 10 AEW versus New Japan matches have to happen now. Why? Here's why. Number 10, Suzuki versus Darby Allin. Now I understand that you could put either of these guys with anybody else and everybody would get excited, but for me, when I look at Suzuki and when I look at Darby Allin, and how both guys just don't give a shib, well, I want to see what's going to happen when you put them in the same ring. I mean, Darby especially just doesn't even give 2 hoots. You could say, hey, welcome to the building, Darby Allin. Could you jump off a building tonight? He'd go, yeah, man, I'm going to jump off a building. In fact, it wouldn't go that way. He would come in and go, hey, promoter man, I'm going to jump off a building. And you'd have to go, well, I booked him, I should have known. But look at the reaction the announcement that it was going to be Darby Allin versus Joey Janela got on Dynamite. You could times that by 10 if it was Darby versus Suzuki. And I get that Suzuki isn't the youngest of pups anymore, but would you dare look him into his eyes? No, you'd be blinking and looking away because it's terrifying. It would also give Allin so much credibility just being in the ring with him. And what I would do is I would make Suzuki the TNT champion. Then everyone else would be like, I don't want to go after that belt anymore. I'm just going to sneak in back through the door, the forbidden door. I don't want anything to do with him. Number 9, MJF versus Tamahashi. I'm not sure this is the first match that does come to mind when you start thinking about MJF and the ace of New Japan. But it all comes down to the legacy that Tanahashi has. One of the best wrestlers ever and one of the toppest guys in all of New Japan when it comes to its history. If our goal is to turn Maxwell Jacob Friedman into the biggest star there ever was, he needs to be going against the legends of yesteryear. So look what we just did. And there's no way they'd have a bad match because Tanahashi does not have bad matches, and the sheer novelty of seeing them fight, well, it would make me tune in. You also have the ultimate good guy versus the ultimate bad guy, and Tana would sell his ass off for MJF, as he probably would Wardlow, who would be at ringside. All of this just warms my heart. In that hasn't got anything to do with anything, but you take my point. It would just blow my mind in so many ways, especially when it came to the story and the narrative and the build. Like, I'm sure wherever they do this, it would be old guy versus new guy, but that's all right. It's true. Number 8, the Young Bucks versus the Gorillas of Destiny. Or Finn Juice, or Evil and Sonata, although that one's gonna be really hard. Hell, you can go out and get Jeff Cobb and the Great Okan for all I care. The reason I plumped for Tama Tonga and Tamaloa, though, to take on Matt and Nick Jackson, is that Tama Tonga has done such a good job of the internet in making me think he's actually mad at the All Elite Wrestling guys for all their Bullet Club stuff. Well, I don't know whether it's a work, I don't know whether it's a shoot, so now I want to see them fight. The Young Bucks are also the masters of pushing that blur button as well, and while we have seen these two go at it before, it means so much more now. When it comes to professional wrestling, meaning is everything. I mean, if you do it right, you could genuinely get people to believe that they've actually fallen out with each other. And as we are talking about tag teams, you also need to include the Lucha Brothers somehow. Again, put them against Finn Juice, put them against anybody, and you know how I know it's going to be brilliant? Because Rey Fenix will be in the match. Number 7, Naito versus Jungle Boy. That's right, I said it. It has to be said. And Jungle Boy is so weird because he keeps getting promoted as a star of the future, even though he's a flipping star right now. It's kind of the same with MJF. But look, if this is the plan, once again, you gotta make these kind of matches. So if we are gonna start crossing the streams, this is where I want my streams to cross. Because Tetsuya Naito, I mean, flipping hell, a few months ago, he was a double champion in New Japan. It's not like he's some slow-mo slum. He's a top dude, put him in the ring with Jungle Boy. It's also something I want to see. When the idea popped into my head, it started to make me smile. And of course, it would be great to see Okada versus Omega 7.9 or whatever the hell it is. But we've done that. We've been there. I want these under the radar scraps, and I want them now, because I'm impatient. Imagine Jungle Boy got the win as well. I know his victory over Dax Harwood was massive, but this one would be huge. Number 6, Jericho versus Jeff Cobb. Which is why this one is here as well. I know that Chris Jericho can have a great match with anybody in New Japan, but he's basically already tangled with all the main event dudes. So maybe take one step back, put him against Jeff Cobb, and once again, I'm getting all excited. It's also basically what WCW should have done with Jericho and Goldberg back in the late 90s, so let's try and put that one to bed. And can you imagine the wily asshole veteran taking on the massive rookie kind of dude, but now he's found his flow? Jericho would sell his ass off for Jeff Cobb as well. He'd hit him with the Tour of the Islands, and Jericho's head would probably fall off. Mostly, I just want Jeff Cobb to be pushed to the moon. He is like the best wrestler that people don't talk about enough, and if you put him with Le Champion, just by proxy, more people are going to start talking about him. Number 5, Hangman Adam Page versus Takahashi. Do I really need to explain this one? Because they're basically the same person. Hangman Adam Page is on the cusp of becoming the star in AEW, and Takahashi is on the cusp of becoming the star in New Japan. Also, the spectacle they would put on, you wouldn't be able to keep up with their speed. The only problem would be trying to figure out who would win, because they would 100% smash it, and that's why I would plan to do a draw and then make these two a tag team. And I'm serious as well, it is two ridiculously talented younger guys who could go and win those tag team championships, and then they could win all the other championships, and then they can have another match against each other where the winner has all the titles. So you would be the AEW, IWGP, TNT, US, IC, and tag team champion. I mean, let's be honest, that's never been done. What a way to get someone over. Number 4, Cody versus Jay White. A more obvious one on this list, but the reason it is so obvious is that it just ticks a load of boxes. Like, if you want to tell me that you think Jay White is the best storyteller in New Japan and Cody is the best storyteller in AEW, you're not going to get much debate out of me, which is why you put them against each other. Plus, you can also make the case that they already have a lot of beef with each other. Like, the whole Elite Bullet Club stuff has never been resolved, and while I'm sure all of that permeates into all of these matches, if Cody is the best storyteller in AEW, Jay White is the best storyteller in New Japan, then you should take the narrative and ensure these two are drowning in it more than the rest. It's also just another scrap that I never thought I'd see once the birth of AEW came into effect. It'd be like waking up tomorrow and going on your wrestling news site of choice, and in big letters it says, oh, we're doing Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins. You'd be like, how are we doing this? And now we have the chance. Give it to me. Number 3, Okada versus Moxley. Because why the hell not? The former IWGP champion taking on the former AEW champion. They've both basically been the heart and soul of their companies for the last 12 months. And also it's new, it's fresh, like bread. They also have such different styles too. I'd love to see how it all meshed. Like, do you go for Okada's build, oh my gosh, what a last 10 minutes approach? Or do they have a massive brawl? And you already know what would happen. They'd somehow merge them together perfectly and you'd cry because you were so flippin' happy. I mean, the real point when it comes to these two dudes is you can put them against anyone on the other roster and we're all gonna be fine. Like, Okada versus Serpentico, yep. Moxley versus Yano, yep. Okada versus Orange Cassidy, yep. Moxley versus Show Yo, yep. I mean, I could honestly do this all day. Number 2, Abushi versus Omega. Title versus title. Which brings us to my personal number 1, and I'll explain that in just 1 minute. But if somebody burst in here right now with a gun and put it to my head and said, Simon, you need to give us only one match for the Forbidden Door New Japan AEW card, I'd be like, dude, you gotta calm down. You've taken this well too far. But also, I want Kenny Omega versus Abushi in the Tokyo Dome or in Madison's Garden, and I want both titles on the line. And if you know the backstory, you already understand why this would be so good. And if you don't, all it would take is the right video packages and the right promos and the right storytelling to make you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe where we've been, and I can't believe what the hell's gonna happen next. You could potentially set up one of the best feuds of modern times, and I just know that the payoff would be good. In fact, I would bet my life on it. That's right, my life, meaning if they didn't, I would die. Just in case anybody is listening, that's not true. I'd never bet my life on anything. That's crazy. If it actually finished with one guy winning both championships, can you imagine the wrestling community just melting down? And when you are done here, you could even put them back together as a tag team. It, my friends, is too perfect. Number 1, Pac versus Osprey. Right, and so now the real number 1, and to explain all of it, in short, I thought it'd be nice to get some feedback from you guys, the audience, the fans, so I went on my Twitter and I said, look, everyone pick a match, and whichever one gets upvoted the most, I will mention on the video. Daryl, you said you wanted Pac versus Osprey, you got the most hearts. So here it is. And I totally get this too because they go together like cheese and bread. Although if you don't know, you can actually watch these two go at it now, and it happened over here in the UK. Just type it into your Google machine and I promise you're gonna enjoy. Even then though, it was deliberately left open for doing more, and if you're gonna do it on a massive stage like New Japan and AEW, it stands to reason that it would be even better. That's just how performers work. With the right motivation too, they'd probably have the match of the year. I don't mean in 2021, I mean pick any 12-month period that you want and take a match. Pac and Osprey would at the very least probably be able to match it. Also, I think this one could actually happen. It just makes too much sense. Now, of course, don't forget to pop in the comments below and let us know what other matches do you want to see. It could happen, people. We just need the world to sort itself out. Then like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com where you can read articles like this. There's videos around my head right now. Click it and stay on the What Culture journey. And head over to social media, because sometimes you can vote in things, and make sure you follow What Culture. My name is Simon for What Culture. I am very excited, but it's the only way to be. Let's see what the hell is gonna happen next.